Hi guys, how you doing? Am I recording? Yes, I'm recording. How are you doing? Are you well? Good to see you. You looking all right? I'm fine, thank you. Thanks for asking. Um, I've been thinking about making this video for a while. I suppose it's an introduction to 5 Rhythms. If you like, I've heard about 5 Rhythms. It sounds interesting, but I'm not sure it's for me. Then this video is for you. It's about 5 Rhythms, my experience of it, some hang-ups I had about it initially, and the process of going back week after week and what I've discovered, what's come up for me. So, what is it? I hear you ask. It says here on the internet, I'm just going to read this from Wikipedia. 5 Rhythms is a movement meditation practice devised by Gabrielle Roth in the late 1970s. It draws from indigenous and world traditions using tenets of shamanistic, ecstatic, mystical, and Eastern philosophy. I may have lost you there already. Shamanistic, ecstatic, mystical, and Eastern philosophy. It also draws from Gestalt therapy, the human potential movement, and transpersonal psychology. Fundamental to the practice, this is the crux of it, is the idea that everything is energy and moves in waves, patterns, and rhythms. It's basically moving to different types of music. Is the simplest way I can put it. Is you go into a room, there's lots of other people, and you dance for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. If anyone's seen Peep Show, this clip was my first introduction of it. So when someone invited me to a 5 Rhythms class, I thought, oh, that's what we're going to be doing. I don't know if I'm up for that. I envisaged tribal drums. This sounded like it was very tribalistic and a bit new age, hippie-ish, all wrapped up in this spiritualism. And I was just like, nah, it's not for me. I like dancing, but I'm going to draw the line there. Having said that, though, I did hear about one class that it came up on Facebook or something. I can't even remember how I heard about it, but I just decided to go on a whim. And the 5 Rhythms, which are, that there are specific types of music that are played to these rhythms, which are flowing, staccato, chaos, lyrical, and stillness. Interpret those as you like. There's no set way to go through them. They're just sort of invitations to move to these pieces of music in this way. So flowing, staccato, chaos, lyrical, and stillness. So it starts quite kind of easygoing, and then it kind of builds through staccato. Chaos is the kind of the what's the word? The pinnacle, the zenith. That's the word I'm looking for. The zenith of the whole experience for me is chaos, and that's where the whole room sort of comes together in chaos. The music builds in intensity, and then it kind of drops down into lyrical, and then stillness at the end is very slow, focused movements, almost like Tai Chi in a way. Everyone just kind of slows down. It says here that there are emotions attached to these rhythms. So flowing emotion is fear. Staccato could be anger. Chaos could be sadness. Lyrical, joy. Stillness, compassion. These are just words that I'm saying, that I'm reading off the internet. The experience for me, the main takeaway for me was that I liked the way it's positioned as a movement meditation. I like the fact that firstly, there's no right or wrong way to do it, and the meditative quality of it means that the self consciousness that there may be people watching this like, yeah, I fancy it, but it sounds like I'm going to be dancing around like a knobhead. And yeah, you are. That's precisely the idea. You thinking about it now the ego's going to jump in and go, yeah, that's going to fucking be ridiculous. You're going to look like an idiot. Who do you think you are? Who the fuck do you think you are? You've changed. There's an element of that, but I will say that it disappears very, very quickly because you are very much in charge of your own practice. Everyone, when I went, I go to one pretty much every week now. I took a break over Christmas, but really getting back into it, and there's about, I want to say about 30, between 30 and 50 people that go to the one. No, maybe 30 or 40 people that go to this one I go to. And the experience every time is completely different. And the more I do it, the more I realize that it can be as private or as connected as you want it to be. There's a woman who runs it, who explains everything and introduces any newcomers to the practice, but again leaves it very open-ended. There are rules set in place, so you don't take your shirt off. That's one rule. I imagine that's aimed at the guys. I don't think many women were doing that. Just to respect other people's boundaries. There's an area that you can go to if you just want to dance on your own. But the main floor is for people who the instructor, Claire, she's called, she'll kind of guide you through it. Initially it'll be like, okay, just kind of tune into the ground and the way your feet are connected to the ground. Very much inviting you to tune into your breathing. How are you breathing? What's your general mood? How does your body feel generally? Are you tired? Are you anxious? Are you self-conscious? Are you bringing anything to this practice tonight that's very present with you? And so it's a very slow kind of integration into the music. The music's very still. And then eventually as things pick up, she'll kind of introduce like, okay, now think about the relationship between like your elbows and your head and your head and your spine or your hips. And that I was kind of in familiar territory then, because I'm from a theatre background, and of course as actors we are trained to be in tune with our instrument. It's not just here, all this stuff below the neck. So part of me, the first time I did it, was like, oh, I know what this is. And you're kind of doing all the rolling around. What's your relationship to the floor? Rolling around on the floor. What's your relationship between your head and the floor? That means do this. Just do loads of crazy expressive shit with your body. I was like, oh, right, yeah. Oh, it's just that, isn't it? So before you know it, you kind of warmed up, and then she'll invite you to maybe partner up with somebody, just make a connect. There's no talking during any of this, by the way. There's no, the freeing thing about it is that it's limited, or not limited, I suppose, to dialogue with other people. It's very much just the connection is purely just through eye contact, and you just kind of feel your way through it. And she'll open it up. She'll make the suggestion of partnering up with somebody, like mirroring what somebody else is doing, like in a pair or in a trio. And then she'll kind of, as the music builds up, she'll kind of introduce like bigger groups of people and then leave those people and dance on your own and all those kinds of things. She'll just plant little seeds for you to either latch onto, or you don't have to follow those instructions if you don't want. But the liberating thing for me, I'm finding, is that there's no obligation to get something out of it. I think that's been the liberating thing for me. That there's a tendency I'm finding to instantly get something out of whatever it is, if it's kind of wrapped up in self-help or expanding, just kind of working on yourself or doing any kind of self-discovery, I suppose. There's a tendency to want to get something out of it straight away. And when you're not quite sure what it is, you tend to look for it harder. So there can be a judgment attached to a lot of things. And with this, the more I lean into it, the more I'm discovering that it's a great opportunity to just let go of any meaning, anything. It all just gets in the way because it's so hardwired into us to, if an emotion comes up, for example, during the day, I've noticed with me, if I'm feeling a bit down, or I'm a bit tired, or I'm feeling lonely or sad, or if there's frustration or anger coming up, instantly my ego jumps in and attaches it to the story. There's a beginning, middle, and an ongoing story. With anything that comes up, it's a familiar feeling, and the ego jumps in and says, "Oh well, this is an ongoing thing for you." And it's the best way I can describe it is that if a kid hurts itself, and the parent goes, "Oh my god, are you okay? Are you okay?" The kid instantly looks at the parent's response and starts like freaking out. "Well, no, I'm not sure now." Looking at your response, and then it starts freaking out and crying. But if the kid hurts itself and the parent just stays calm and detached and just allows space for it, the kid will generally just sort of feel the pain, feel the shock or whatever, and then recover from it. And it feels like that, for me, is a response that happens a lot in day-to-day living. It's like things come up and automatically everything sort of tenses up around it. "Oh, I don't like that. I don't like that feeling. What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong?" And then the brain jumps in. It's like, "Oh, well, maybe I'm not doing enough of this. Maybe I'm not getting enough sleep. Maybe I need to change my diet. Maybe I need to change how I'm meditating, or maybe I need to do more stuff. Maybe I need to do less stuff." The list is fucking endless. And then you can jump on your phone and start scrolling through Instagram like, "Oh, this person says this. What about this? I've not thought about it." And it's like, there's no space for anything. But with 5 Rhythms and just allowing stuff to come and go, it's such a fucking relief. Like the one I went to last week, I showed up and I was really, really tired. And my uncle passed. So I'm already attaching a story to it. I'm doing it now. My uncle passed away on New Year's Eve, and I've been dealing with a lot of grief, is the simplest way to put it. Very up and down. His funeral was in January. Everything's been boxed up of his, and we've cleared out his flat. And part of me feels like, okay, that's done now. That's been dealt with. Let's move on. What's the next thing? But your body doesn't work like that. Your body stores things. The emotions come and go. So there's been a lot of that. My energy's been very up and down. One day I'll have a million ideas of things I want to do, things I want to try, places I want to go. And the next day I can be like, "Oh, for the fuck, just stop. Everything just needs to stop today." And I need to not do anything. So going to this practice last Thursday, I was exhausted, and there was something very freeing about that. Just showing up, and I think because I was so tired, emotions were very close to the surface. And this necessity, because as I say, I'm from a theatre background, there's a kind of hardwired necessity to perform. There's part of me which always feels like there's an audience there, so everything needs to sort of like have an intention behind it, have a reason, have a kind of image, or an interpretation. But that just wasn't there the other night, and I found that there was a kind of notion that came to me that like, oh, this is just for me. This really is just for me. There's no end game. I'm not pushing for anything. I can rest if I need to. The only one thing that I would say as a sort of rule, and that Claire kind of reiterated every now and again, was just to keep things moving. Whatever it is, no matter how small, no matter where you are, just keep it moving. And that could be an internal movement, or, but externally as well. And as I say, because I was so exhausted, things just really came up very quickly. A lot of sadness, a lot of pain, but by the same token, it left as quickly as it came, because there was no energy to kind of grip, like tighten around it, or that was all kind of gone. And within that, and a lot of people experience this as well, because at the end, the instructor says, does anyone want to share anything? And that's a very common takeaway from 5Rhythms, is that you're giving yourself space for things to come up, and by giving them space, they leave of their own accord, and something new can come in. So there was sadness and all of that kind of stuff, but then just as quickly afterwards, there's also joy and ecstasy. And I'll be honest, the first time I did it, there were moments during the kind of zenith, the pinnacle of it all, during chaos, and when the music really intensifies. There's commercial music as well, by the way. Another big turn off for me was that, it's just going to be tribalistic drums and stuff like that. No, there's commercial, like she played, there's a great remix of Get Your Freak On by Missy Elliott, which came on at one point, and yeah, the whole room just went fucking apeshit. And it felt like at points I was back in a club, being 18, doing a pill, and coming up and just seeing people around me. Obviously no one's on anything, but people are behaving in the same way. Everyone feels connected, everyone feels safe. There's an intimacy, there's a celebratory feeling, and there's an ecstasy there. And that can be some people were crying with emotion, some people were hugging. I know it sounds very new agey and spiritual and off with all that woo-woo kind of stuff. There is some of that, but I think if you're curious about it, I would say just give it a go and try, if you can, to put that stuff to one side, the stigma that's attached to that kind of stuff, because I have similar hang-ups about that, in terms of the optics of that kind of thing. There are a lot of people who come dressed it, you know what I mean. I think you know what I mean. There are some people who are just sort of very normally dressed, shall we say. There's all kinds of people that come to it. So what I'm trying to say is that don't judge it on just the optics of how it looks or how it's presented to you. The proof is in the actual doing of it. And as I say, there are all types of people, all ages, all kind of abilities. And as I say, it's not about everyone else. It's just about you. It's about your own experience. And the more you lean into it, and the more time you give yourself, it can be really surprising what comes up. So, yeah. Have I covered everything there? I think I've covered everything. Yeah, I think I've covered everything. I think I've said everything I want to say about it. Give it a go. Is all I'll say. Give it a go. Just Google it. Just Google it. You know what to do. You know what the score is nowadays. You could just Google any of this, but I just thought I'd give you a bit of my experience, and I'm definitely going to keep at it, because as well as doing yoga and that kind of thing, it's, I've been doing that kind of thing for a long time now, and it still surprises me how much the ego can hijack things that can first off seem like, oh, this is just something I'd like to do because there's a curiosity there. But then they very quickly become about getting something out of it. Like, I'm going to go to yoga because I want to look good. I want to do this. I want to go to this thing to get this. I'm paying this amount of money. I want this thing out of it. So then at the end of it, I can say, before I did this, I was this. And after it, I'm like this. But there's not many opportunities in life, I'm finding, to just do something very simply for the simple for the act of just doing something without all the meaning around it. And I, try and carry that forward in day-to-day life. So that being said, like and subscribe this video, subscribe to this channel, share it with your friends. Please like me. Bye.